Hello, and welcome to what is going to be our last deep dive on the Star Wars saga, which is essentially Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Of course, the film just released a handful of days ago on December 20th, 2019, and currently at time of recording, it is looking at a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes out of 351 reviews. This is actually the lowest rating on Rotten Tomatoes of the saga, except for maybe the Clone Wars animated feature, but everyone kind of forgets that that is actually a movie. So, with that being said, I of course gave my initial thoughts earlier in my non spoiler review. I am Mr. Nose. This is Andrew. And Andrew, what is your initial base thoughts after seeing the film? Before
I
we truly deep dive into the plot, what is your overthinking?
personally, I feel that it's actually the best out of the three, which I know is counter to what everyone else is saying right now. But
And what I thought he was going to say.
yeah, he thought I was gonna he come out and hate it. No, I went into it and I specifically going into the theater after all the bad press because it's been out what 3 days, 2 days.
Four, if
The
you count
last
Thursday previews, or
the last
almost a week with the press screenings.
so the amount of bad reviews being given by certain critics and gaming sites, movie sites, fans, which, to be honest, I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans that have seen the movie and said negative things probably, you I'm kind of ashamed to count myself as part of that fan base. But no, I specifically went into it today and basically sat down and prepared myself to just watch the movie. I didn't have expectations. I just ignored everything I'd heard on social media. I didn't have any spoilers either. He didn't spoil anything. He was honest with me. He said he thought I'd come out of it mad. And I'm actually very happy with it.
After watching it the second time, I don't want to necessarily say that my spoiler review was wrong, but I have kind of opened up a little bit on it. It wasn't as bad as I recalled. I didn't. I saw a lot of pandering. I still saw a lot of pandering and a lot of fan service, but it didn't upset me as much as it did on Friday when I first talked about it, and I didn't feel insulted like I did before. I felt like there's a very good chance that my expectations were set way too high when I walked into it, and then got at the time what I felt like was fan fiction thrown together from Reddit. Watching it this time, I still have issues, but they're nowhere near the type of issues that I had before. A lot of it probably can be cleared up if I take a look at the visual dictionary, check out the novelization, 3 or 4 months when it comes out. But I have mostly issues with timeline and true reasons behind behind the way things happened. So we went through and we did talk about some predictions. Let's start there, so we don't necessarily bury that lead. So the first thing we mentioned when we did our predictions, when we did simple yes or no's, was the redemption of Kylo Ren or of Ben Solo. We both agreed that he was going to be redeemed,
Mm-hmm.
and he was, but not in a way that I thought he was going to be redeemed.
No.
I expected him to cut down Palpatine and die in a glorious ball of fire, like basically copying Vader. And they didn't go that route.
They went the opposite route. Um, like my whole thing was I had this one prediction that was about half right, half wrong. It was my overarching thing for the whole series. Oh, Kylo's going dark because he has to because him and Snoke are out to kill the Emperor. Blah blah blah. Okay, so part of that was true. He was out to kill the Emperor because
At the
the
time, he
Emperor
didn't
was in.
realize it was the Emperor, though. When he started as
According
Fall.
to the scroll, I'm talking about the
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he didn't know about the Emperor. That we'll get into that once
One.
we finish the predictions. But yeah, he was out to kill the Emperor. That was his goal. And then as things progressed, but yeah, my whole view on it is I mean that's the like I said in the prediction video. That's the whole point of the saga, is you have basically the Force and family and everything coming out and basically bringing you back from the darkness.
Mhm.
And in a way, that's what happened. In his case, it was his family as
Oh,
well as love.
that is a good point because you're right. His mother did have a lot to do with his
Well,
redemption.
she literally gave his life by reaching out to him, because I think she closed herself off. She sent Han to get him back. She did this. She wouldn't reach out to him. And he said, I can never go back, when he was talking to Rey at one point.
Well,
She
that
goes,
I
I can
think
never go back to my family.
because he killed
And
his father,
she reached out and literally, basically, I think, gave him the sense that she forgave him and wanted him home.
which stopped
And then he
him,
got
and then he
almost died.
Kylo Ren literally died because Rey stabbed him in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about Rey's force powers because there's a few things that she does that we're gonna talk about. Um, Dark Side Rey. We saw in the trailers that she had this flip bladed red lightsaber. I don't mind the design.
I
He
hate the
hated it,
design.
and we both no. Andrew said it was a vision. I thought it was a clone.
I don't
Winner,
know.
winner, chicken dinner. This turns out to be a vision. Actually, showed up twice.
Well,
The very first time it was a blink and you'll miss it.
mm-hmm. One thing, and I noticed this when she went into the vault, is I immediately thought it looks like she's inside a holocron, which
Oh,
is
because
what
of the glass
the
walls and
cave
stuff.
was and
Yeah.
everything else. And like, this is something that struck me. I was going to bring up in this one when we were discussing Last Jedi, and her parentage and her touching the
The
thing,
wall.
which according to wow, uh,
Johnson.
Fallen Order.
Oh, Fallen Order. Yep,
Which,
yep.
according to Fallen Order, is the mirror is basically a giant holocron. Well, it's a dark side point, and what the dark side, those places do, like what it did to Luke and her and whatever his name in the game,
Cal.
it 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 offered something that she needed and gave her an answer that was playing into her fears. She wanted to see who her parents were. It showed her and basically made a point of saying that your parents are nothing,
Yep.
which is one of her greatest fears.
Yep.
So she played into her fears by going there. She failed the test like Luke failed the test. And then she enters in there, and her greatest fear is falling at this point to the dark side and being a monster.
Yep. And they really show that this dark side vision is truly a monster because and I say it this way because they have this little quick fight, which I actually like the way they did that lightsaber fight because she opened up the I'm going to call it a folding lightsaber. And then she closed it on the other blade, and I thought that was a very interesting usage of that type of lightsaber. I don't remember seeing it in the Force in the Clone Wars cartoon used in that kind of way. But when she's got him pinned, she says something and kind of like lashes out to cause her to fall out of the vault. Her teeth are all sharp and pointed like a piranha's.
Mm-hmm.
So it thinking about it right now, I kind of equate it to Abloth. How her teeth were supposed to be all rose and shark teeth, like
Why'd
really,
you have to bring her up?
because she is the true manifestation of a force monster.
Yes, in the final fanboy ending crisis to the old Star Wars storyline, that's part of the reason they got rid of it.
Yeah. Well,
They ran out of ideas for things to do after having extra galactic invaders, and then it came to, we're going to create a giant dark side squid lady that tries to seduce and murder you.
yeah, I actually might talk about that extra galactic thing later on when we talk about Rey a little bit more. But speaking of Rey now, we also mentioned her parents. Were they important or not important? And
I said important.
I think we both said that they were important, but I think
Thought you were aiming for clone.
I was, but I thought they were going to try to turn her parents into a mixture of Palpatine and Luke
Uh,
because that would have been what she was cloned from. At least that's where my thought point was. Turns out she is grandbaby Palpatine.
yeah,
If you didn't know this was going to be a spoiler by now,
yeah. Palpatine had his own children murdered to try and take her to him, so that he could,
so he could
convert her.
convert her into a Sith. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more because that talks about my problems with the timeline. And so let's just kind of set that aside for a second. And we talked about Luke returning, which he does, and we both thought that in some way he would return as a Force voice or being. And actually, you said both, and he was
Yeah,
both
yeah.
because he was in that group of Jedi past that we'll break down a little bit more. Which I wish I'd have written down everybody's name. I didn't. So we're gonna forget somebody. I know we are.
That's what that's for.
I don't know
cue
where
it up.
mine's at.
I'll cue it up.
Snoke. We also talked about Snoke, if Snoke was going to be important. I think we both, if I remember right, we both said he was going to be not really important, but kind of important. And really all we got from him was a line about him, and then they just pushed it away and went on.
Well, there were also multiple bodies in the tanks of Snoke.
Yep, I saw that. So it's one of those things that we're going to talk about a little bit more because just one little blurb isn't going to do it justice. We also talked about a redemption of General Hux in the eyes of the fans. We both agreed that it would be in our eyes, but not necessarily within the story's eyes. And I think that they went and did that very well. They could have done it a bit differently, but I understand the way they went with it. I thought it was all right.
Oh, his being the mole.
Yep, being the mole
It
and then
it
staying
was-
on the ship.
Well, it was more along the lines of, I like what they did because he's always been a devious and he's tyrant. He's not a good guy. I liked him in the first movie because of what he was. But the point of that is he wasn't doing it for anyone's benefit but himself because he wanted revenge.
Yep.
And I feel it redeems him in my view, because in the second one, Johnson turned him into a sniveling idiot. And if you guys can't tell, yes, I kind of have it out for Johnson, and oh well. Other people are defending him right now.
He's. After seeing this, I will say that I do understand where his comments about fan service are coming from. Completely understand it. Maybe don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it. We also asked if Palpatine's return was crafted from the start or thrown in to fix the trilogy. And it kind of feels like it was a thing JJ was working for, part of his lovely mystery box. And he had to find a way to, quote unquote, shoehorn it in after Johnson tried to make Kylo the big bad of the series.
Yeah, that's literally my feeling on it. Is I feel like it was if Abrams had been able to do all three. Now that was never the original plan, and even Abrams said after doing the first one he was going to be too burned out to do a second one anyways right after, which is why they were going to do three different directors. I mean, it makes sense. But I feel like he was the only one out of the entire group who actually had an idea of where the whole trilogy should go. And I think that was his overarch, we're going to bring back Palpatine in the end. And then I kind of feel like the next movie, it just kind of faded off, and Rian was doing his own little thing. And, oh, yeah, we're going to turn Kylo into this, supreme leader. And I think the intent at that point was probably to go with Rey duking it out with him.
Yep.
And then once Abrams was brought back in on it, it's, oh, yeah, we're going to bring Palpatine back and answer some questions.
So that brings us to our last yes or no that we did in our prediction, and that was if the Knights of Ren were going to
Be of any importance.
And no, Not really, not in the aspect of this film. Like they brought him in, like
They were
JJ had,
goons.
like you could tell that JJ had thoughts and plans for him because he teased him and then he used them here, and they didn't speak, they didn't carry
They
lightsabers,
didn't even show their faces.
didn't show their faces. They were just
I don't even
thugs
think they
essentially.
had
I wouldn't.
lightsabers.
Nope. One guy had like a maul.
Another
Um,
had an axe.
yep.
They they were they were basically like the bloodhounds of the Sith.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
biggest line that dealt with them was, "Me and my knights are going hunting for the scavenger."
Hmm.
That's essentially it. Um,
They just they showed up at a couple key moments at which they looked intimidating and scary.
yep. So that kind of brings me into, now that our predictions have essentially been talked about, the biggest problem I have with this movie is the fact that a lot of it feels forced because it feels like they didn't have an overarching plan for the trilogy. It's like they said, you get a movie, and you get a movie, and you get a movie, and don't worry about talking to each other because it's all going to work out. It's Star Wars. People are going to come and give us money.
That was yeah. That's the greatest failing. Is the fact is before they ever started Force Awakens, everyone involved should have been sat down, and a timeline should have been drawn out. This is what's going to happen in this movie, and this movie.
What works best from how we see it as fans with Marvel is Kevin Feige says, this is our overarching goal for the next 5 years. We need you as a director to hit this point, and this point to work on our overarching story. Other than that, you can almost do what you want. Same with you, and the same with you, working on that Avenger movie. Here, it was just like, go ahead, write your script, set us up. Cool. Oh, next one's in? Okay, that has nothing to do with the last one, but Kylo cut the big tall guy in half. Okay, cool. Is kind of how it felt. And
Mm.
then this one was just like, okay, let's bring in Palpatine and says that, oh, you've been working for me, but you didn't know it. Snoke is nothing. You thought you heard Vader? Nah, 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 son. You heard me. So while I enjoyed hearing Andy Serkis and goodness, I'm drawing a blank on
James
his
Earl
name.
Jones.
Yeah, one line and they're done saying,
That,
"I'm Big Daddy Palpatine. I do what I want."
but that did kind of play into my prediction area in
It
the sense
did.
that I was always saying there's a reason that Ben was going dark like automatically. You don't simply just choose to go. I want to be a Sith Lord, Mom. The fact was is, and I discussed it with him earlier. He's got the helmet. In the first movie, you hear him, tell me again, grandfather, and all this and whatnot. He thinks he's been talking to his grandpa's Force ghost. It's Palpatine. Palpatine's been messing with his head since before the trilogy started.
So, which is fine. I get that. It works. This time I wasn't angry by it. It
Yeah.
works. I do kind of feel like the idea was to set Snoke up as once a I don't want to say disciple, maybe disciple. I'm kind of confused on their relationship, but hopefully somewhere down the line it'll get fleshed out. A disciple of Palpatine who decided, now I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to lead this First Order. It's mine now because you're dead.
No,
It's kind of how I feel like.
I, my feeling on it is he was a face. He was basically a, how do you put it, front of house puppet to
Like,
disguise what was really going on in
like
the background.
Masamita used to be.
I feel like he literally was cloned. Probably a Force user that was loyal to the Emperor, but was literally cloned and utilized as a puppet to keep everyone's attention focused on the First Order while
Ooh.
Palpatine did everything he needed in secret.
Maybe that's
And the
why they
only
want Baby
person
Yoda.
who was really that willing to serve was Allegiant General Pride.
I'm gonna pull this back out of Rise of Skywalker for a minute. Anybody who's been anything on the Mando, I'm gonna throw a second in here. I haven't spoilered anything on it yet, but maybe that's why they want Baby Yoda. Is for the Force genetics to try to clone.
Clone Force users.
Yeah, would make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, last episode, Friday. Then once we all both watch it, then we'll do a deep dive on the season.
Yeah.
So that one will be fun.
But no, that's my feeling on Snow, because the amount of bodies you see in the tank and things like that, I feel like he was probably a disciple, and he was literally meant to be the face of the First Order as the big bad guy that everybody's going to focus their attention on, while
Well,
Palpatine's sitting
okay. So
building up a
you're
massive
talking
fleet.
about him building this massive fleet on Exegol.
Mm-hmm.
I have one little problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Where did all the material come from? Where did all the manpower come from? How did they build those ships?
Well, who says they built them? Who says they built them after he's dead? Remember Operation Cinder, wipe
True.
out the fleet. Well, now you think the whole
And then fly off into the unknown regions.
those Star Destroyers probably aren't brand new. They're probably all
Just
from
retrofitted with
and retrofitted with the weapon systems.
because they are all Imperial.
Plus, they were
ones.
also talking about, oh, Palpatine's followers are a bunch of cultists. Well, they were probably his most diehard supporters. And then look at Allegiant General Pride.
I want to take a second and preface this with we have not read the visual dictionary, so if there are any details in there that is changing what we're talking about, throw a comment below. Let us know. But it's stuff that should have been in the film. Just say how he's got his a new body on Exegol that's on an Animus arm. For anyone who's seen the Assassin's Creed movie, it looks like a freaking Animus arm.
Yeah, but it fits in with some of
It
the
makes
old Kanan
sense.
stuff.
I get, but every time I've seen it, I'm like, oh, what ancestor is he reliving today? But that's really the only problem I have with.
And I'm not allowed to bring up the Ewoks putting a hyperdrive in a tree and using the Holdo maneuver on a Star Destroyer.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. We'll discuss that in a minute.
When with the fall of the final order.
Where were we? We were on the whole
Palpatine's resurrection. Everything to do with the final order. How Palpatine got to Exegol and isn't dead. Like, you can see that he's been beaten up, that he's been through the mud and the muck. He's been through some stuff. But is it a clone body? Did he teleport his body? Because that's a force power between Rey and Kylo we haven't seen before.
That, though.
He didn't know that they were paired. Is that a force power only because they were paired?
I think he's a clone. They even reference it at some point.
Well, the fact that we saw two Snokeheads kind of says that it's a clone.
Well, the First Order was even discussing it, I think. Or was it the Resistance? About basically cloning using Secrets of the Sith.
Oh, yeah, Pippin.
I
Pippin
think
said something.
My guess is basically he probably had some clones in backside.
And it has to do with taking from
his...
Secret Empire. Secret Empire?
No, Dark Empire.
Dark Empire. Secret Empire was an old...
Yeah, Dark Empire was the old Dark Horse comics in which basically I feel they stole a lot out of that.
They did, and they just didn't tell you that he could do...
Because basically in that series, the Emperor returns using a clone body, manages to turn Luke to the dark side, messes with Anakin Solo and
in
Leia's
the
womb, has a massive fleet, and has a warship that is way bigger than Darth Vader's Super Star Destroyer, the Executor, called the...
Was it the Eye of Palpatine?
No, that was
a super weapon?
That was a super weapon, but something different. Doesn't matter what the name was. But it had a planet cracker in it. Basically, it couldn't blow up the planet, but if you shot the planet with it, you could wipe out a continent. So, I mean, they pretty much just went in there and stole a lot of that. I feel like Ben Solo, they stole him from Jason Solo.
Oh, the whole character arc.
They went in and just pulled a ton of stuff. And I feel, Palpatine's most likely just a clone body, but the problem is there's always been in lore, whether it's canon or not, was difficult to clone Force users for some reason. Like they explain it in the Thrawn series. They explain the only way they were able to clone people successfully was by removing the Force from them.
Because it made them go mad or something.
Yeah, but that's the Thrawn series. So my thing is, I think it was just more along the lines they just couldn't keep a stable body for him until
And
he had what he needed.
I think it also comes back with he Palpatine says a line that basically says, "Don't worry about that. We'll flesh it out later." And that is that the dark side is a pathway to some abilities that some would say is unnatural. Because he said that line again here,
Yeah,
talking to Kylo when Kylo found him in the
that's
first
actually one.
5 minutes of the film.
That is actually like my favorite line from the Emperor in Episode 3. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. It's just kind of dark.
Oh, the way he
Which,
said it at the Moncal Opera.
yes. But that's one thing I want to touch on with this is Abrams managed to put a very dark turn on a lot of stuff in this movie. And I really liked it. Whether it's that whole opening 5 to 10 minute sequence where Palpatine's introduced to the final showdown. It's
They
just
they got
so.
gnarly with the visuals that I didn't expect them to do. If you think this trilogy is for kids, nah, not really. You can take kids to it. It's okay. This one might give the little kids nightmares,
Oh, I
but
think that opening sequence of him going into the tomb and meeting the Emperor for the first time is going to scare the shit out of kids.
this one is truly the first trilogy that wasn't made with 12-year-olds in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, it
It
wasn't.
had
It
a
was
lot more
made
adult
for
themes.
the adults of the original and
I'd say
sequel
12
prequel
and up.
trilogies. I I might even say 16,
Yeah.
but
No, I mean, uh,
it wasn't what I was expecting to see the first time, and I think even if I had gotten what I had expected to see, I would have been insulted the first time because of how high my expectations were, and I wanted to be challenged,
mm-hmm.
and I felt like I went straight through it. But this time, again, I knew what was coming, and it hit better. Um, I want to talk about Leia. I want to talk about our dear princess. With what they had, I thought they did well.
They did well. I
I have
okay.
some issues with it.
Well, I went like I said. I went into the movie, specifically with an open mind and a blank slate, trying not to make any judgments. But when it came to Leia, I specifically was watching because I was critiquing on how they did it. And regardless of the fact, I happy with how they pulled it off.
There were some issues with
But
the
you
tech. You could see some issues along the lines,
But the
along
main
the
thing was
edges.
if you weren't really looking at it, it's not as big of a problem. I was really looking at it, so yes, I could tell the fact that they were having to work. They were scripting around what they had. They managed to make it to work though.
They did the use of a
But
body
yeah.
double, the use of pre-existing lines, and
Mhm.
the audio wizards at
But
Lucasfilm
you could
are
literally
great.
tell though that a lot of that was context that would have been used in Force Awakens if they hadn't cut it out.
Yep.
Because it's mostly her talking about this mission. Well,
What mission?
obviously, the mission she was talking about when they filmed it was the mission at
Starkiller
Starkiller Base,
Base.
but they were able to convert it over for this movie.
Yep.
They did, they did, I think, the best they could with what they had.
Um, I I think my fate. I'm gonna say it, but I'm gonna let it go. She died. They let the character go, and they did it in a way that felt respectful to the actor. Now, usually you don't say that kind of thing. Like, we're not going to say, "Oh, James Bond died," and they did it in great respect to Sean Connery or Roger Moore. But the way they did it felt good. She helped in the turn of Kylo Ren.
Well, she did exactly what Luke did.
And the way they let the characters emote on her passing. We complained more than I like to that Chewbacca didn't emote over the death of Han Solo, other than
Well,
doing
no, it wasn't
one
about it. It
roar and
wasn't.
shooting.
No, it
But
wasn't
he
about Chewbacca. Everyone was picking on Princess Leia. Oh yeah, she walks right past him, doesn't say a word, and goes to this chick she doesn't even know. That was the argument amongst the fandom at the time, is that, oh, yeah, JJ screwed up here, and he admits it, he does.
He admits
But
they should
everyone
have
threw
had.
a fit that he literally walked right by her, she walked by him, didn't say a word to each other, like there was some falling out in the or something,
Yeah,
you know. But in this one, I think he worked hard, and I mean, I guess you'd say that's fan service,
it is. Well,
but he
that's
had
not the
Chewie
biggest
break down.
Chewbacca moment. That's fan service.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Well, actually, we can talk about it now because it deals with her dying.
Hmm.
He finally got his medal.
Yeah.
Chewbacca finally got his New Hope medal. I'm assuming that that one was Hans,
That was Hans.
and I thought it worked well
But
for
honestly,
trying
the
to.
way things were going, I thought she was going to smooch him. She loves that Wookiee.
Oh yeah, because
But
that was given to him by Maz Kanata.
hmm
Um, yeah, it was just I could have done without it. Like I understand how it fits into it, but it just I didn't need it. But I will admit they used that metal for more than just giving it to Chewbacca. It's like she used it as a focus.
what?
Oh, okay. Let's I'm you saw my gears turning. I'm gonna save that for when we talk about Kylo's turn and what he sees.
Oh, okay. I think I have an inkling of where you're going.
Um, le- all right. So I go ahead and just talk for a minute because I gotta get clear my head now because I don't even know where to go from there. Um,
All right, so I I said I was going into the movie with an open mind and all this, but right off the bat, like within like 10 minutes of it, there was one point I did have to lean over to him and tell him I did not like it. Um, they get this information from the spy, and the First Order's chasing them, and they start light skipping across the galaxy, which basically they were teleporting. Once more in this trilogy, unlike any of the other 8 films that are currently in this canon,
in the Skywalker saga.
not no, I'm
Are you?
including the other two.
So then you're up to like 11 because this is number 12, including the
No,
Clone
I was
Wars cartoon.
cutting. I'm talking taking this whole trilogy out.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Okay, so 9.
This entire current trilogy has screwed with the rules on hyperspace repeatedly, and that whole sequence right there just made me want to like pull what little hair I have out because oh my god, we're gonna jump through a wall. We're gonna jump into hyperspace
How
through an
thick
ice
it?
wall, which
How thick is that
basically
ice wall?
completely defeats the laws of physics. And I will be the first to argue they've had thousands of years of technology to advance and therefore could probably do things that we are here on Earth and scientists can't imagine. But the point is, you're not going to jump into hyperspace. The TIE fighters aren't going to be able to follow you through hyperspace because, oh, yeah, it takes a Star Destroyer to hook a string on you to do that.
I didn't
They're not
even.
going to jump in from one point into another planet's atmosphere and be flying through like some mining facility and then jump from there to this other place to this other place. It was like, JJ, we get it. You make amazing like cinematographics and things. So don't play with the laws of Star Wars
I
physics
didn't
just to make it
realize
look
that they
cool.
started that jump on the other side of the wall. I thought they broke
He
through the
he
wall.
specifically
I thought they. He asked her how thick the wall was to break through the wall and then jump.
no, he pulled it before they hit the wall. But at the same note, it still doesn't matter. They basically teleported planet to planet using light skipping,
Which
which
upset Ray.
but the point is you literally from every single movie seem to have this relatively set. You jump into hyperspace on a specific route.
Jump
You
into
ch-
hyperspace isn't like dust and crops, boy.
yeah, but
You.
the point
Wow.
is you jump through hyperspace along a certain hyperspace lane or direction, whatever. People can't follow you unless they're traveling the same route. I mean, if you jumping from Tatooine in the direction of say Endor, I'm sure they could probably follow you because oh hey, they're heading to Endor. You can't jump into hyperspace and have a TIE fighter jump in right behind you and then drop out right behind you. It makes zero sense. They can't.
That's what made the holdover maneuvers work.
But the point is Force
That's true.
Awakens.
That is what.
J.J. Abrams did the exact
Oh, with the shield
same
refresh rate.
thing. Well, no, that one I do kind of understand. I mean, it broke the rules about the fact that gravity wells were supposed to affect you being in hyperspace, where you drop out
Yeah,
before
because
you
they
get on our
dropped. Yep.
planet. For safety's sake, say they pull a safety regular, whatever. But the point is you couldn't communicate in hyperspace. You couldn't travel together really in hyperspace unless you guys jumped along the same line, but you still couldn't communicate. Force Awakens, Abrams suddenly has a fleet of X-Wings all just sitting in hyperspace waiting to drop out, all of them chit-chatting on the radio. They're able to be in communication with their base and with people on the ground. And, oh, hey, the shield's down. You guys can attack. Cool, let's drop out of hyperspace. And then what was it, the next movie? There was a sequence
Ryan
with
Johnson. They did communications while they were in light speed.
hyperspace.
Yeah.
They basically, all the other movies stayed true to the original Star Wars hyperspace laws, I guess you could call them. And in this, Abrams just likes to take them, throw them out the window, and do whatever the hell he wants. That is my biggest complaint with the entire movie, is that 35-second sequence. Outside of that, the little things don't bother me. That bothered me. Now are you
I'm yeah. Let's talk about Luke. Let's talk about Rey's trip to Octo. Actually, no. We'll save Luke. Let's talk about their trip to Paxana. Paxana, the desert planet, because it's Star Wars. We got to have a desert planet.
desert that everybody was partying in?
Yeah. I want to talk about that because it's going to kind of talk about Rey's parents and what Rey does and what they think she does. So we have Rey essentially finding out that this ship that they're hunting for, because they're on a quest for a dagger.
No. They weren't looking for the dagger.
They were looking for a clue. When they were out,
yeah.
they were looking for a clue that turned out to be because Luke went dry looking for a clue, and they find this dagger that's supposed to point them to a wayfinder. But Rey essentially goes, I've seen that ship, I know that ship.
Yeah, because she remembers the ship that left when she was abandoned on Jakku.
Yep.
That everybody conveniently forgot about after Force Awakens, going, oh, she doesn't have parents, or she's not important. She was sold for drinking money, and yet was left behind by a starship that you could have sold for drinking money.
Yep. So this kind of comes into Rey finding a little bit more about herself here. And we find out, well, no, we find that out later. But she's following this trail, and this is where we first see her use a force power that's been in video games since essentially the dawn of time, the Force Heal.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I don't know.
Force Heal's been in at least since KOTOR. I don't know if it was in the first Jedi Knight game or not, but it's been in them all, yeah.
Except for this Jedi Order game. I don't remember a Force Heal there because he used stim packs.
Yeah, but he also, yeah.
I'm not that far yet. Does he have Force Heal?
No. No, I was...
oh, was it in Force Unleashed?
No, that was Bacta.
Oh.
But it's been a major player in the games. It's even in the books, but not to that extent. And the only time I can think of anyone going to that extent, they burn themselves up. But basically, you could use the Force to help enhance healing, not the Wolverine. We're gonna heal you instantly stuff. But then again, nobody with that kind of raw power was ever using Force healing.
Yeah, Luke never
with no training.
Luke never used it in like that I can remember. So they get out and they start to use this ship because the First Order has come, or the Final Order, whatever the hell they're called at this point. And Rey is going out to basically distract the Knights of Ren and Kylo. Chewbacca goes out to help, say, hey, we gotta leave, and he gets captured. So the transport that we think is carrying Chewbacca is coming up after.
I didn't think so.
I bought into it the first time.
There were 2-3 transports sitting there, and only one took off.
I only saw one. So I bought into it. So Kylo comes skipping along, and like that very first shot of that first trailer we saw, where Ray does that cool slow motion backflip. I think that's the only part of only slow motion I remember in the whole film. So
Yeah.
he basically backflips over it and cuts off the wing, and then it explodes. And if like the very first time I saw it, I was like, did Kylo really just go out like a punk? Because that'd be awesome. No, he survived. But they played a forced tug of war with a ship flying into space. Have we seen that kind of force power in the films?
Not in the films, no. We've seen it in the games
And
and books.
Ray apparently gets mad at Kylo enough that she magically conjures force lightning without knowing about it. And that's because of who she is. No training, it's just because of who she is. Nobody yet in. Oh, no, Snoke did use force lightning on Kylo for a hot second.
I'm pretty sure he used it on her, too,
Did he?
when he was torturing her.
I
But,
thought that was all about him digging and
but I
filling
also
Dora
don't
mine.
really buy into that whole, I don't know if it's a fan theory or what about, oh, you have to experience it first. No, I think it was more she got so frustrated and angry that they're trying to attribute that because she's a Palpatine, she just naturally throws force lightning.
Because that's his signature move.
Well, and that's also what Ben was saying is I was trying to make you that angry. I was trying to push you because I wanted to see if it was true.
Oh, she got pushed.
Yeah.
She blew up that ship. She
And
thought she killed Chewbacca. So they end up going to another moon of Endor. Not the forest moon, because that would have meant Ewoks.
This one was more
This
like
one was the ocean moon of Endor.
Mm-hmm.
And they find more stormtroopers that said, nah, bro, I'm done. I ain't killing civilians.
Well, and that's where Finn begins linking the Force to how an entire company of stormtroopers just said no and put their weapons down.
Yep. And he's starting to realize at this point, I think this is really where, no, because he said it when in the
He said it
sinking
when they were
sands.
getting sunk into the sands. There was something he tried to tell her, and they confirmed it later in an article or something. But basically, Finn is Force sensitive.
Yeah. He got a feeling about something or other. I don't about Ray. He felt Ray die.
Well, yeah, he felt
But
no.
it
No,
was
wasn't
something
Ray
else
dying.
too.
What was he feeling?
About where to go, wasn't it?
There were a couple of different things throughout the movie, but there was Ray dying. He also was trying to talk to her about how he knows her, and she basically told him to screw off.
Yep.
And the reality is I think it's that he could sense the conflict in her and was trying to help, and she shrugged him off because, oh, nobody knows me.
Yep. After getting the dagger, I skipped a part when we went straight to Endor. They had to get the dagger decoded
Analyzed.
because the one I love that joke. This comedy worked for me because it felt like Star Wars comedy, except for they fly now. They fly now. They fly now. That one, yeah, it was all right, but
Yeah, but we'd also already seen it 20
Yeah.
times from the trailers.
The fact that the one time you want C-3PO to say something, he can't because he's bound by galactic law or something.
His programming code.
And then he tried spouting off some law that.
Well,
he
you
can't
also
do
have
it.
to remember, though, that at the time, it was when he was built, he'd have been built using probably, spare parts from Republic droids. And the Jedi probably didn't like the idea of anybody having the ability to read Sith. So it was probably, it probably was a law during the Old Republic. But what I mentioned to him that I found hilarious is that a droid hand-built by a future Sith Lord of the Sith is unable to translate
Speak
Sith.
So they take him to what was the name of that planet? I liked it.
Jajima or something like that, or
Yeah, something like that. Jujima. Anyway, this is where we run into.
it's one where we would have liked to have seen a callback to them storming the Star Destroyer, going for Jajima. Yeah. Because it did get blown to sky high.
Yeah. Where we meet Carrie Russell's character of goodness, I don't even remember where
I
she's
don't know her
from,
name.
what her name is, and
There's a
BB
lot of
Boo Boo.
characters.
What is his name? Boba? I don't know. Some little guy's probably about as
The
big
little
as this
guy that's
guy.
got the internet by storm, just like Baby Yoda does. Yes, that is
What?
now a thing. People are going insane over him now.
The
Because he's
droid
no,
dude?
not the droid. Yes, yes, because he's so cute and small and speaks funny.
And his hands are as big as his face. Um, but anyway, he basically ends up having to wipe 3PO's memory so they could speak Sith. And Rey is able to lock it down and memorize the whole thing, just hearing it once. But anyway, reverting back to 3PO, he doesn't know anything. And he essentially consciously gave up his own being, knowing that saying he repeated the line of Pose.
Well, the way they lead into it when they're talking to him, they go, yeah, but R2 backs up your memory, doesn't he? Well, R2's databanks are notoriously unreliable. And somebody said something to him, you know what the stakes are, and he steps away and he goes, this mission's all that matters, and along these lines is this
Poe had
mission's
said
all
it
that
like
matters.
20 minutes before.
If we fail, then everything we've done has been for nothing. And so he basically just goes, I'm gonna look at my friends one last time, and he's gonna die.
Yep,
And that C-3PO died. The C-3PO that has been literally alive since New Hope.
New Hope. He got no, actually just before
he was reprogrammed after Episode 3.
Yep.
So he'd have been alive at that version and personality of C-3PO, unless he was wiped somewhere in the 19 years between Battle of Yavin and whatnot, is dead. He's gone. He's now a new droid. Unless he downloads his databanks off of R2, because I'm pretty sure R2's got them.
That's what he did.
Oh yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, that's what he did.
The point is, he's still
basically this movie. When it's all said and done, this movie didn't happen for him. He had to be told what happened. Mm-hmm. And then it was nice to see those two, and we get a callback to A New Hope because they do the dumbest thing possible, and they storm the Imperial command ship.
It was a good sequence, though. They did a lot better than Han and Luke and them did.
and it starts to bring a little bit more of questions that I have up about Kylo and Rey. Because once Rey finds Kylo's quarters, they connect. And I think Kylo is doing this on purpose. I think he's strong enough to start that connection.
Yeah, he was doing it on purpose. He was messing with her while she was training, too.
Yep. But he can't see her surroundings, just her. But they can start passing things back and forth between each other, and he did that in Pasana, and that's how they found her.
Well, they also kind of did that in Last Jedi too.
Very briefly, but this is the moment where he says that they are a dyad in the Force. Term we've never heard before. At least I don't think we've ever heard it before.
I've never heard it either.
And my initial thought is, dyad. They were born at the same time. The same kind of Force energy is into them, so they're essentially true love.
I just said soulmates in the Force. They're literally linked together.
And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, that's not truly possible to happen because they were born like 10 years apart. But I'm wondering if there was a line from Snoke in The Last Jedi.
The connection between the two.
I bridged your minds. But he also made the comment of the dark side rises and the light side to meet it. So I wonder if when Kylo went into her mind and she started pulling out this information, if that created the dyad in the Force.
Well, I'm thinking the initial link started in Force Awakens, and then Snoke used it, and then it went from there.
It started to build and then blossom. What you know as Reylo is a dyad in the Force.
Yeah, essentially, basically, the more their feelings built for each other, the more their connection in the Force, et cetera, to the point at which, and like Abrams said, he wasn't going to play with midichlorians, he was going the more spiritual route. In this case, it's literally the fact that they become so connected that their points in space converge.
Yep. To the
Which
point
is
that they
where,
can
when they're
pass.
fighting, you got berries all over the floor, and then
They're fighting each other and they're on two different
I still
planets.
wonder what that stormtrooper thought when he's just standing there and she's in my quarters. Who?
Bird helmet.
Where'd that come from?
So yeah, I want to know more about them being a dyad. What I want is not to have them die after finding out they're a dyad an hour after finding them. I want a full story of the dyad. I don't care if you got to take me 1,000 years in the past, because when Palpatine finds out, he goes, "Oh, this hasn't happened in generations." Okay.
I thought he said longer. I thought he said thousands of years.
Either way, long time ago. My first hope was maybe that was Benioff and Weiss's film, but they left to do Netflix stuff. Those
Eh.
films are still on the table. There's somebody has Star Wars films scheduled for 2022, 21. So
Something.
22. They're taking a year off and then every 2 years.
Yeah.
There's a trilogy coming. Don't you worry. This isn't the end of the saga.
Well, I still think everyone got misquoted when they were going, oh, yeah, this is the end of our trilogies and stuff. It's like, no, I think what the whole point there is that's the end of the Skywalker saga.
It's the end of the story of.
Don't think they're going to do standalone films and that be that. I don't think that's how it's going to work. You're going to get a couple of duologies and trilogies.
Yep. You're not going to see a Skywalker. You might actually now, but we'll get to that in the end. So they get to the Death Star and they find more stormtroopers that aren't stormtroopers anymore. They find the jumper and have that force vision in the vault.
And then they have an awesome.
And then poof,
duel.
Kylo's there. Now this, I want to ask you something. Beginning of the movie, we find that Kylo found a
Wayfinder.
Sith Wayfinder, put it in his in his X-wing, went and met old Daddy Palps, then took a different TIE fighter to Paxana for Rey to cut the wing off and watch it explode, and then take the original one that he saw old Daddy Palpatine with to the Death Star. Because that's the only way that Sith Wayfinder would have survived.
He could have also just took it out.
Then why was it plugged in? It doesn't feel right to me.
No, he could have taken it out, had it on him, crashed the fighter, and then when he got to Endor, hooked it back up, or on the way to Endor, because he was planning on taking her to the Emperor. Or whatever. We don't know what happened with him between. I mean,
this is one, as you can see, this is one of the questions I have, and why I have these questions.
But it's also, I think you're just jumping a little too deep into that one. In the simple sense of, we don't know what he did in the hangar on board the Star Destroyer. He could have disconnected it from the nav system, put it in his pocket. Or he could have grabbed a different interceptor for the attack on that planet because he didn't want to risk her getting it. And then took his interceptor to Endor to get to her.
This is why I want to read the book. I'm sure we'll get a little bit more on that. At least I hope so. So they have actually a pretty decent fight. I enjoy this lightsaber battle.
Yeah, this one was really a battle of the wills. It was also him. He was trying to drag out her anger.
Yep.
He was trying to get her to turn.
I would say at first they were fairly matched. I think so.
The more angry she got, the more he was beating the crap out of her.
Very true.
But we also saw some cool force use there too.
The stopping of
stopping
the
the
blade.
lightsaber.
And
Did you notice they warped?
I didn't notice Kylo's warping because of the cracked Kyber, but I
Mm-hmm.
noticed her blue lightsaber doing that. So this goes to the point that Leia decides that she's going to finish, that she's got to essentially sacrifice herself to save her son, which she does by holding the medal. He stops, you can feel it, and he gets stabbed. So Kylo's dead essentially because, he's dying. Rey heals him and then steals his Star Destroyer, his TIE fighter. Poof, gone. The one thing I didn't anticipate in this film going into it was this next interaction with Han Solo. And we get this.
Wasn't Han Solo part of one of our predictions? Did we
I
forget
don't
that one?
remember that one.
Hmm.
But this is kind of why I had to stop here. Because Han says, I'm your memory. Basically, I'm your memory of your father.
We had a discussion of whether or not that was a Force ghost or a memory.
But I kind of freaked out for a second. What if holding on to that
She was
medallion
channeling him.
that she force projected like Luke did for the Battle of Crate? And instead of angering him, brought him back through the use of his father. Because he could physically touch him.
And her body didn't disappear until
Until
after.
after he disappeared.
Yeah, until he died.
It would tie together with what we saw
I
in
can go
force
for that.
protection.
Yeah, I can go for that.
So it basically means you
Well, it's
want to
either
use force projection, you're gonna kill yourself.
Well, it's either force projection or she was able to somehow pull him forth. Based on my theory, is that Han was somewhat force laden, but
That's most likely, but
he was like Finn.
yeah,
But yeah, no,
I would say Finn's more force sensitive. Though.
Yeah, no, I'll buy into that because is oh, she died. Well, she died holding the dang medallion still,
and
so
her
it's
and it goes with like the if you look at the time frame of when things disappeared in The Last Jedi, Luke's body disappeared, and then the dice that he would conjured disappeared.
mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just something I thought of, and you saw me have
I'm
that
fine
thought.
with it. I'm good with it.
Who knows? I mean, someday we'll figure it out, and I'm sure if I put that on Reddit, someone's gonna blast me through everywhere. I might do that now. I don't know. Probably be like, "Oh, that's been on here before, dude." Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, none of us have ever had original ideas anymore. Thank you, internet.
So yeah, that's thinking about it in that terms is very respectful to Carrie Fisher and her role as Princess Leia. But what this does to Rey, while it redeems Rey or redeems Kylo, Rey runs off to Octo.
Well, it wasn't even that. You're cutting a key part there.
What I miss?
Leia literally reaches out to her son, which is basically an acceptance of come home.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole idea of forgiveness. Well, at the same time, Rey feels that Leia's dying and basically realizes I'm fighting out of anger because basically Ben basically comes to the surface and then she guts him. She stabs him with a lightsaber. And it's at that very moment that Rey's realizing she's let her anger get away from her. She's basically becoming the thing she fears. And at the same time, her master, Leia, is dying. Is dead.
Yep.
And it's like that turning point for her. She's just basically like, Luke's right. I have to go because, you know what? I'm going to turn into this empress on the throne and blah, blah, blah. But at the same note, she also realizes that her feelings for Ben well up at that point because she tells him, I would have taken your hand. I would have taken Ben's. Yep. And then she leaves and runs away.
This brings us to a theory that I have about Octo and Force Ghosts because she sets Luke's the this
Kylo's
this TIE
interceptor.
fighter that after she already destroyed one of his has the Sith Wayfinder in it. She doesn't know this at the point. So she sets this thing on fire, starts throwing driftwood in it, and goes to throw the lightsaber in it. And Luke catches it. Force Ghosts it, catches it. So, like we had in The Last Jedi with Yoda bopping him on the head and burning a force tree.
And then makes a rather interesting comment that harkens back to him.
A Jedi's weapon should be respected, essentially.
Which basically is him picking on himself because he threw it over a cliff.
Yeah, it's like
And she was
really that line is a dig at Johnson. At least that's how it comes off. But it's like him saying, "Yeah, I shouldn't have done that because I should have respected the weapon." He carries it, respect the weapon, and then they have a conversation about overcoming your fear, and that how he couldn't do that, and that was why he was on Octo.
And that's why she's there. And in the end, basically, it was the Luke that everybody wanted.
Yep.
That everybody was mad they didn't get in the last movie.
And he
fan service.
No. What did seem more fan servicey was that what happens next, and that's here's Leia's lightsaber. What? Leia's got a lightsaber? And then we get this CGI thing that kind of doesn't work, kind of works, of Luke and Leia. I'm guessing was Endor. Either it's Endor or it's the wherever Rey was training. It was one of those two. It was either the Forest Moon of Endor or wherever Rey was training.
Yeah, it was a forest planet where they were training, and Leia has a vision that alters her destiny.
And the only reason, like, I didn't notice it the first time, but the reason why I say it's the same planet as Rey was training on earlier was because the visor helmets was the same.
Yeah, that might be why Leia went back there.
To train Rey. That makes sense.
But yeah, basically, Luke explains that Leia had a vision during their final training sequence, which is why she never... Which harkens back to Rey. Rey didn't complete it either.
The
training course. We were on our final piece of training, and she had a vision in which she said that if she became a Jedi, her son would, what was it, take her blade or something, and
would fall. Something about falling to the dark
side and like be ruled.
But that eventually someone would take up her blade.
No. If she became a Jedi, her son would do that. But if she laid down her lightsaber, another Jedi would come along one day to pick up and finish her work.
Yep. That
what it's saying is if she had become a Jedi, then Ben probably would have fallen and become the Emperor.
Yep. Yep, because it would have
altered history.
It would have probably led to a clashing of sabers between Leia and Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben would have killed her out of anger, and then he would have just constantly hated himself for killing his mother.
Because that's the one person he wasn't able to kill.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it in Last Jedi, and...
But the one person to pick up her lightsaber was someone who did call her master, and that's Rey.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred if she'd have picked up Luke's green lightsaber, but that's just because I didn't... I thought the design of the hilt was okay.
Yeah, I liked the hilt, but like I was telling him, I'm tired of blue lightsabers. I told him personally, just, I don't know, maybe the fanboy in me, I don't know. I try to suppress that because fanboys get irritating because they just come up with wild things. But I was kind of hoping for like a rosy or like pink lightsaber. Just for once give us something other than blue and green and red and purple. But we'll get there. That does actually happen. But... the point is on that note, I wanted either a different colored blade or it would have been nice to have seen Luke's lightsaber come back.
It did look nice to see Luke and Leia training with green and blue, clashing with each other. That looked nice. That part looked nice.
Yes.
But that kind of gives you an idea on when Leia made her lightsaber, where she was in the Force. Because of how colors work. And at least how we believe colors are. Yes, she did. Um, and it was nice to see that they did that in darkness because the CGI was kind of rough around the edges with the de-aging tech. But that's a whole nother story. That is fine. So she doesn't think she can get out off Octu. She doesn't know where she's going. And then Luke says, "Yo, I got you. There's an X-wing in the water."
There's also a wayfinder in that thing because you have everything you need right here to go do your thing.
And she's like, "Oh, maybe there's one in that ship that I stole." She
I still love the porgs.
two wayfinders. Kylo destroys one on the Death Star, and after she destroys two of Kylo's X-wings, TIE fighters, chippies that go pew pew,
TIE interceptors.
She's got the other one. And then Luke, as a Force ghost.
But I could have swore that whole riddle thing actually talked about there being 3 of them.
I don't think so.
I don't remember. I thought it said 3. So I was just like, oh, well. What?
But,
I'd have to rewatch them.
So Luke pulls the TIE fighter, or the X-wing, his old X-wing. They go so far as to call it Red 5.
Well, because it's still got his IFF codes.
All I'm saying is the TIE fighter from
it's an old model.
Jedi and Empire, he was Rogue One. He was Rogue Leader.
But the Rogue Squadron was disbanded. Rogue Squadron became Red Squadron during the attack at Endor. Battle at Endor. Rogue Squadron was basically an unofficial name that they disbanded after the war, which then became Red.
All right.
And his IFF would have read as Red 5.
So what this felt like to me, even here, is because Rey's got that finally wearing that helmet that she had on Jakku, but it's actually it felt like a little fan service. Harrison fan service.
I don't know about that one.
That's what it felt. That's what it felt like to me.
No, that was like a callback. For me, it felt like a callback to Force Awakens. I just feel like, no offense, you were looking for some of it and found some of it. But
it still bugged me on this one.
But she literally was sitting up against a blown up AT-AT with an X-wing helmet on, kind of imagining herself in a starfighter, and now she's actually flying an X-wing with Luke Skywalker's helmet on. That was fan service to her, not to us.
That was her first snub fighter.
Yeah, she flew the Falcon.
She flew the Falcon.
But she finally got to fly in a starfighter, and remember, she had a little model in there. Yeah.
All right.
So I don't call it fan service to us. I call it fan service to Rey.
All right. I'll see. She got
to sit in the seat of her hero, who was Luke Skywalker,
who she thought was a myth.
Yeah, like it's a legend, and she got to be him.
Yeah. All right.
Though the fan service, though, I think comes from C-3PO and R2 coming up. Oh, I think R2's communication systems are messed up because he's receiving a message from who? From Master Skywalker.
Well, this does two things, and we're going to kind of bury the ending here. It's a foreshadow moment. Yep. I didn't think about it until now it is.
The moment I said it, I thought about it. I just wasn't going to comment.
But it also is because, this was right after R2 restores
C-3PO's memory. They also, what did the little droid know? Was he the one who told them about going to Endor?
Boba Fett?
No, the dude, the hairdryer droid. He knew something.
What he knew was essentially the military strength of Exegol, just not how to get there. Like the vortexes, the way they described it is he knew the vortexes, he knew the gravity wells, he knew the ion charge.
So he knew about the planet because he was on the ship.
But he didn't know how to get there.
Yeah, okay.
And that came from Rey.
It was also his revelation about what so-and-so was doing. It was about that, why they were on Jakku. That little droid knew his master, or whatever that dude was, the hunter that Palpatine sent out, was there to take those parents, which was Rey's parents, kill them and take their kid and bring the kid to the Emperor. And that's when
But
everybody realizes it was Rey.
he never made it to get the Wayfinder.
No, because he couldn't find how to get back.
But he had the dagger to find how to get there. So this is a problem that I have is because it kind of messes with the timeline, and I'm going to explain this. And I'm sure it'll be explained in a book or a comic or a novel somewhere. Palpatine dies in Jedi. Okay.
Yeah.
10 years later, ballpark,
Luke's tracking
this dude who's trying to find Rey, or Rey's father, who is Palpatine's son.
But Luke was also trying to find Escapol, or whatever the heck the planet's called.
Yeah.
But Luke was trying to find the homeworld of the Sith. We don't know why Luke was trying to do that.
We don't know if that has...
Other than him and Lando were tracked this guy to that desert planet.
It did have something to do with Palpatine. I do vaguely remember something about Palpatine. But anyway, the reason why I have a problem is how is Palpatine manipulating things in the past when he's been dead for 10 years? Well, so what I want to know is, this is why I want to know more about how he came back.
I think it's all part of Operation Cinder. The operation was basically to wipe out all traces of the Empire so that Palpatine would have a safe play to come back eventually. How hard is it for one of his emissaries to hire this Jedi hunter? That's what the guy was. Here's a gift. This will lead you to where you need to go with this kid.
But this dagger couldn't have been created until after Endor because it was notched out with the wreckage of the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
So I have questions on the timeline, so I want more, but we have so little between Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi. We fill in that gap, and I'll probably get the answers I'm looking for.
Well, there's that. But like I told him, the easiest explanation is the fact that the Emperor likes to talk about how he's foreseen everything. So maybe he even foreseen his death on the Death Star.
It would tie things up in a pretty bow. But this brings everybody to Exegol. This has Poe and Reyes and Kylo. Basically everybody's there except for the Falcon, who is trying to pick up reinforcements. After a conversation with the little hobbit, I shouldn't call him that, but for the life of me I can't think of his actor's name, going on and saying, oh, we need to do some holdo maneuvers. We just need to blow them up. And well,
you don't even have a you have a Corellian Corvette, which could probably take out a Star Destroyer if it jumped to hyperspace. One. I don't think an X-wing will kill a Star Destroyer
unless you hit the bridge, and that shot's 1,000,000 to 1.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just they're coming through, and Rey is going to face Palpatine head on. She's going to face her fear. And she does well until she realizes everybody she's brought with her is dying
because of her. The Emperor plays his famous thing of, hey, look out the window. Look at all your friends burning in space.
And now you know where Snoke got it.
Yes. But yeah, basically it's the classic line of, if you do what I ask you to do, I will spare your friends. Actually, I won't, but I will.
So he basically wants to jump into her body. He wants her to kill him so all the Sith can live in her. No. I'm of the thought process that actually he's going to possess her body and is not telling her the whole story, because that's what Palpatine does. He's done that. He did that with Anakin for his whole life.
Well, the question becomes, him and I debated this earlier, if, and they totally could, considering Old Republic is under EA. EA is licensed by, what, Lucas?
LucasArts is done. Is no longer working.
Well, no, I'm saying,
but
EA is working for Disney, pretty much, when it comes to Star Wars
for
games.
Another 3 or 4 years.
But the point is, they could potentially make it canon, which you could potentially then say that Palpatine is literally just the current iteration of the original Sith Emperor, because the original Sith Emperor is, in that timeline, which they haven't said is canon or not, has basically survived thousands of years by jumping from body to body and consuming entire planets. And just keeps going.
So,
But we also had the discussion of the fact that he kept telling her about how she'll be Empress of the Sith.
and he said it to Kylo too.
What,
You'll be the Emperor if you do what I tell you to.
yeah, but his whole goal at that point was the vision that Rey had of her sitting on the throne with Kylo. So the question becomes, is he, does his idea work, or was it simply that if Palpatine's goal was to continue the Sith Empire and it wasn't necessarily about personal gain? So would he have possessed her, or would it have been a case of all of his knowledge and the knowledge of all the Sith that came before him that he has? Would have that just then transferred into her, and she'd have been just basically an empress with unimaginable power?
It comes down to the line that he says that all the Sith live within me, and is he telling her the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you the Force?
Now, his based on everything with Palpatine, his idea is more right because of the fact that Palpatine just liked to steal bodies.
And the fact that they were starting a Sith ritual that was going to end in his death?
Yes. I don't think he was that dedicated. I think because he was supposed to be the last stepping stone in the whole rule of two and everything else. He was supposed to take over the galaxy and rule it forever.
So,
which is why he was grooming Vader up. I think he was going to use Vader's body eventually because of the great Force potential. Then he got Ben. Then he got his granddaughter. Yeah.
With Ben shows up around this point, and we find out that Ben has stolen an old Imperial TIE fighter from the wreckage of the Death Star, and then flew to Exegol on his memory of how to get there. That's how I took it.
Once he knew how to get there, he could probably use the Force to get there.
Which makes you ask why. He might have didn't need the Wayfinder because maybe he, as a dyad with Rey's already there. But
we get to see him running around with a blaster like his dad.
He does. Someone pointed out that he makes the same shot that Han did from The Force Awakens. Yes. Kind of looks over his shoulder, shoots, and somebody.
Well, no, he shot a guy and then went like this behind him and shot a guy and then turned.
Yep. And I saw this on Twitter, and it just looked like a standard First Order blaster to me. But someone made a comment that
looked like a DL-44 version of it.
That it was either Han's blaster, or that it was a blaster that
it wasn't Han's.
Lando would have given him as a kid.
I don't know whose blaster it is, other than the fact that it looked new, but it had the general shape of the DL-44, but it was not the DL-44. So I would have to...
Another reason why I want the visual dictionary.
My guess is that maybe it was a sidearm for Imperial pilots from the Empire days, and it was inside the cockpit of the TIE fighter.
Would make sense.
He had no gear. He literally threw his lightsaber in the ocean.
He threw away his Kylo Ren. He was there in his undershirt.
Yeah. With a hole in it still from the lightsaber.
So if anyone says, oh, well, maybe he went back to his ship. No, he didn't, because that ship's in orbit above Exegol.
In the middle of a battle.
In a firefight.
And nobody, I don't, even though nobody knew what happened on Endor, I don't think they'd have... Yeah.
I think they'd ask questions with the hole.
Yeah.
And without his helmet.
No helmet, no outfit. He shows up in an old fighter. Yeah.
And without his lightsaber, because he's thrown it in the ocean.
I'm assuming it's probably it's either that or he got it from the stormtroopers before they left. He was on the planet at the same time that Finn and the deserters were. Maybe he got it from them.
Who?
Or it was the sidearm left in the TIE fighter.
Just another question I have an answer to. I don't have an answer to.
So I don't think it's very important.
But... No, but it's details I pick up on.
I know, I'm being surprised.
This leads us to an actual battle with 6 Knights of Ren with Kylo?
Yeah, it was all the Knights of Ren.
Well, he didn't do too well.
All he had was a blaster pistol that they knocked out of his hand.
And this coincides with Rey getting ready to cut down the Emperor, and she finally realizes she's not alone.
Well, because Ben connects with her.
Yep. And he smiles, and she just kind of actually put on a poker face for Palpatine. It goes back to, and then magic is gone. And I liked this part because Ben picks it up, is like,
I got Grandpa's
looky what I
lightsaber.
got. You guys are screwed. And three of those Knights of Ren just kind of take a step back and it's like, crap. We know what he can do.
No, there's that, but I think it also is an important moment for Ben because he's now rightfully got his
Uh,
grandfather's lightsaber.
yep. That has served, uh, goodness, maybe 2 days on the dark side when Anakin cut down the kids in the temple.
Yeah, I still wish that, like, I know it's that timeline's been altered because of, things with Kyber and all that stuff. But, like, it would have been interesting if they ever remastered it to show his lightsaber changing like red hue during those sequences until Obi-Wan
Yeah.
gets it back.
Um, so that
I know, off tangent.
after, and this is what one of you see Rey pull out Leia's lightsaber. So essentially, you have the apprentices fighting with their master's lightsaber. Rey with Leia's, and Kylo with Ben. At this point, Ben with Luke's.
Kylo's dead.
Kylo is really dead at this point, and Rey is she's reflecting blaster bolts with her hand.
Mm-hmm.
So she's really becoming one with the Force. Both of them are showing the most in-depth Force guidance, essentially, than they ever have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it leads to both of them being in front of Palpatine and him realizing they're a dyad and that they can essentially cure this failing clone. I'm going to call it a clone. This failing body of his.
He's a clone.
And he makes this comment about, as I was thrown down a shaft by a Skywalker, so shall be the last Skywalker, or something like that. And he throws Ben down a cliff.
Into lightning, supposedly. Basically, bye, Ben. Don't need you no more.
And
Well, I do like they changed that whole thing. This will be the last word in the story of Skywalker to, what was it, to the Resistance?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
he siphons them dry of their bond.
after he does that, he goes from the black robe that we saw in Return of the Jedi to the vibrant Sith robe that he wore on Empire Day, where he proclaims in front of the Senate
It's
that
got that red V vest.
that they're going to reorganize to a galactic republic. It
You notice his face was blue, though? I don't know if that was
I think that
lighting.
was the lighting.
Yeah. But basically, it's the Emperor reborn and at the height of his power.
And they show it by essentially him EMPing
He
all of the
yeah,
ships,
he
because
uses
at this
Sith
point
lightning to...
Han is there with hundreds of ships.
Han?
Lando
Lando
and
never gets the credit. It's always Han. Even he's doing it.
or as Lando would say, it's Han. Um,
Trying to save Han! You bounty hunter!
the funniest thing, I just watched, was it Jimmy Fallon, or he did an interview somewhere and he's like, I don't know, I mispronounced it once. Because he also was asked if it's Chewbacca or what was it, Chewbacca
How
or
you doing, Chewbacca?
yeah, and he's just like, I just mispronounced it once. So they're all back and they're trying to take out the fleet and they're doing well at this point. And
Oh, yeah.
Palpatine's back up and he's like, nah, we're done. EMPs everybody. And then Rey somehow finds this way to get up. She's throughout the film has been trying to call on the presence of old Jedi. She wants the Jedi to be
Well,
with
I think
her.
she was trying... I think it was more along the lines she was trying to become one with the Force as best she can. Because they said all the Jedi live within you now. So it's one of those things, I think she was literally just reaching out to the living Force.
So we get this, basically she's staring up and you're seeing all this, and we get this voice, these voices that hear her, and there's Anakin Skywalker.
Well, that one. Luke Skywalker. Both Obi-Wan Kenobis.
So Alec Guinness.
Young and old. Mace Windu. Yoda. Anakin Skywalker, Ezra Bridger, I don't know who that
Ezra
is.
was in there?
Ezra Bridger, Kanan Jarrus, Ahsoka Tano, Ayla Secura, Luminara Unduli, and Adi Gallia.
All right. So before I get into why I like this, this depending on what these voices truly mean, all of them are dead except for two that we know of. Last time we knew, um, Ahsoka Tano wasn't dead, and Ezra Bridger was lost in deep space, which happens at the end of Rebels. So unless they're meditating and bringing through, like you had mentioned earlier, they're dead. And that I didn't realize Ezra was in there. So I was really happy to see Hayden Christensen came back and did new lines. Most of the older cast, except from Mace Windu, um, Obi-Wan, so not Alec Guinness, he passed a very long time ago. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Ewan McGregor. They came back to record new lines. Hayden Christensen recorded new lines. Luke was already in it. But
Samuel Jack. I still surprised. That surprised me hearing Mace's voice in
yep.
that.
But the other Jedi that we hear are all voice actors from the Clone Wars. The because Luminara doesn't speak in Attack of the Clones, or is she even in Revenge of the Sith?
Who?
Luminara. They're basically just background Jedi.
Luminara was not, and no, she was only in Clone Wars, or not, or Attack of the Clones. She wasn't in Revenge of the Sith.
So we just get to this point that everyone is dead except for two Jedi. One, by the end of her life, wouldn't even call herself a Jedi. So it just brings more questions into that I have because we're trying to bridge all this transmedia. Another reason why I think this wasn't scripted out, and it shows. But eventually, this brings to her getting up and defiantly, not attacking, but walking towards Palpatine, who shoots it with lightning. She blocks it with Leia's lightsaber. And then she force calls Luke's, and she's got an X, blue X. I will admit there was something I wanted to mention, but I forgot. And when they first meet up to cut down Palpatine with Rey and Ben, they're in sync. They're both one with the Force. They're in sync. They get in the same stance at the same time. But the fact that I wish they were two different color lightsabers instead of the same color lightsaber is a very cool visual. But he makes this comment. Palps makes a comment that all the Sith will live in me now. Her comment comes down to, well, so what? All the Jedi live in me now. And then burns his face off with his own Force lightning. Which, nothing's to say that he couldn't have Force jumped again. So maybe in 15 years, Palpy will be back.
There's something I didn't connect that. There's been an awakening. Have you felt it from the earlier movie? They're saying that's the beginning of the dyad.
So when is she? She hasn't even used the Force at that point.
What was it?
That was like his first conversation with Snoke. This isn't the time for that. That's another.
No, sorry. We gotta,
but Palpy, they show his face melting off. They wouldn't even
melting. It more like it was just bits and pieces flying away.
It's kind of like Voldemort's death. Kind of. But anyway, this act also kills her. I'm guessing it was force feedback. Yeah, I'm guessing it has to do with the force feedback of the lightning. Is the only thing I can
Well,
think of that
look
would
what
have
he
killed
did
her.
to himself the last time. Oh no, with her, I think she was giving all of her force power into push, basically pushing.
Hmm.
Some of the ideas of the lightsabers is that Jedi use their force within them too.
Okay.
But I think part of it is she's basically blocking the force of it, and she's using the force to turn back all his power upon himself. And in so doing, I mean, you see, basically it was the same thing with like Yoda and the Emperor. You know, they're fighting force power, and you get this boom. You know,
Anakin and Obi-Wan did that
Obi
too.
Wan did it. I think in this case, it's literally she used all the power at her disposal to push back his power upon him, and in the end, he basically blew up. And I mean, you basically see all his disciples and everything get crushed by pieces of
Because of
the
the
building.
force energy just
Yeah,
destroyed the building.
and I think she basically drained herself to stop him.
Ben crawls out of the hole and force heals her because her body didn't
And
disappear.
then, for all you Raylo
He cried.
fans, I did not cry. I will fully admit I did get a little moment. It kind of felt nice.
Raylo is the new Dyad, I guess, or Dyad's the new Raylo.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
sure how that works.
basically she grabs. They look into each other's eyes. She grabs him, makes out with him for a second, and then he dies.
And disappears, so he's gone.
And then Leia disappears from her beer.
Yep. Yep. So that's kind of why I wonder if like her force energy was pushing back the dark side in him, or if it had something to do with a force vision that she projected. Just questions. And there's one more question that we'll get to because they I don't know if they destroyed all the ships or how that went.
They,
You're left to assume they destroyed all the ships and left. She leaves in Red 5. Um, Poe leaves in his X70 X-wing. At least I think it's an X70. And R2's in a cockpit, so he's actually finally doing something.
Snap Wexley's dead.
Wex dies. Yep. But
Wedge Antilles is a
was
gunner
a
on the
gunner on
Millennium
the Millennium
Falcon.
Falcon, so it was nice to see Wedge back. Um, they get back to that planet where Rey was training, and it's basically everybody was just so happy, and we find out that Leia's aide is in a marriage with another lady pilot. Cool. We had no indication, so it felt kind of forced for me.
Well, there's that. There's also, I think, fan service of the whole. Everyone. Okay, so there's the Poe and the Finn thing,
Finpo.
where, yeah.
If you can have Raylo, I want Finpo.
So when Force Awakens comes out, there's a whole bunch of like backlash about a black stormtrooper. Thank you, racist fellow fans.
You know what? I didn't realize that the one stormtrooper that came back that spoke was a black lady. Didn't even occur to me until you just said that. Naomi Aki playing that.
Yeah.
He doubled down.
But the point
Good for
is,
him.
go back to Force Awakens. Black stormtrooper. Right off the bat, the moment people see a black stormtrooper, all of a sudden, all you wonderful Star Wars fans out there, well, not all of you, but there's a certain portion of you, and you guys should just never watch Star Wars again. Oh my god, it's a black stormtrooper. How dare they cast someone as a black stormtrooper? How dare they put a black guy in a leading role in a Star Wars film? Well, then there also, after the movie came out, there was some questions about.
You really saw that comment? After people with look, like I never heard anyone say, "Oh my goodness, black guy in a lead." Lando.
Yeah, no, that was part of the hubbub.
I didn't
People
see
were
that
mad that one of the new leading actors for this, because remember at the time nobody knew whether he was going to be because they had him holding the lightsaber. Everyone's going, oh god, they got a black guy as the Jedi.
How cool this Disney Plus series would that be with Rey training
Finn?
Yeah.
But okay. After the movie came out, there were questions going around about a possible relationship between two of the characters on there in which it's LGBTQ. And then it dropped after that. But at the time, with the amount of backlash going on, I was just going literally just like, please don't do that because there's already enough backlash and it's hurting things because people are so intolerant. Which Star Wars is supposed to be about non-intolerance, acceptance.
I was gonna say some tolerance,
Shut up.
but
But basically, we get this. It seemed like fan service because literally you see a woman from The Last Jedi suddenly randomly making out
and
with a female
it
pilot.
just seemed like
And then, like, he's going, well, I wouldn't have really cared about the Poe and Finn thing. And I'm like, it's not a matter of the Poe and Finn thing
and
outside of the fact that it would have had so much backlash.
they go out of their way, for instance, in The Last Jedi, to try to give Finn
Poe,
another love
Finn and
interest.
Rose.
By the way, Rose, Kelly Marie Tran, I loved your performance in this. I'm sorry you didn't get more screen time.
Yes.
You deserved more.
I
You
brought that
deserved
up. I'm
better.
like, they're supposed to be in a relationship, and yet
They find some way to write her off because she's an engineer. Fine, whatever. She deserved more screen time if you asked me.
yes.
And then this one they went, oh, but Poe needs a love relationship, so maybe he likes
He's got
Rey
this
because
mercenary
they have
shit.
they have
Yeah,
like a
that
lovers
was my
quarrel,
feeling at the beginning, is they're having this lovers quarrel.
and then they introduce Carrie Fisher's character, not Carrie
Carrie Miller?
Carrie, no,
I don't know her name.
Carrie Russell. I can't remember the lady's name. Basically telling us, oh, your buddy Finn, your buddy Poe, he was a spice runner.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited to know more about that. Which was, you were a spice runner? You were a stormtrooper?
You were a scavenger. We can go on all day.
I
But
love his character. I love his character.
yeah, that was one thing is I saw some of the critics go on about is that, oh, yeah, he got to do a little bit more with his character, but for the most part, him and Finn were just the same as they've always been. I'm going, no, they weren't. One, I liked Finn a hell of a lot more in this movie.
I like Poe a lot more. In
I
this one,
did
too.
not like, I was not that big of a fan. No offense to Boyega, he is a good actor. I did not like his character in Force Awakens. I did not particularly care for him in Last Jedi up until like the very end. But I think they did some bad writing on his character because after he understands, he's awesome. This movie, he was excellent the whole way through. It was an amazing.
He knew
role.
who he was.
The same
and-
thing with Poe, but everyone for some reason wrote him off, and I think
Well, he wasn't meant to live past the escape of the Star
Star
Destroyer
Destroyer.
at the beginning of The Force Awakens.
yes,
But seeing him in this one basically play a ladies' man was hilarious.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed it. But it was good to see everybody come together, and it's just now it more feels like nitpicks of what I don't like about it.
Well, here's my nitpick on it: is there was reference to how, oh yeah, they just kind of like shot for shot, like you know, the original trilogy movie somewhat in this, and they kind of did. Oh my God, we had because somebody makes a comment about people are rising up against the First Order all across the galaxy, and next thing you know, Star Destroyer going down next to Bespin.
Okay,
Then-
makes sense. It's a Banagast.
That makes sense. Now, wasn't there 3 sequences?
There was Endor, there was Cloud
Bespin.
City, and Jakku.
Why would
5,
they
6,
be
and
at
7.
Jakku? Why would they station a Star Destroyer over a junk planet? That right there was fan. That was fan service.
Fan service was Endor.
That was fan service, and
'Cause there's
we're
nothing
getting
there.
to Endor. It was fan service to do that because it was a drawback to the re-release of Empire Strikes Back with the celebration scenes.
That was Jedi that did the celebration scenes.
That's what I meant.
I know.
We're using too many titles and character names today.
Finpel.
So
Hashtag
basically, then you get the Endor part where you see and personally I thought it was kind of a bad rendering of the Star Destroyer because it looked a little too clean cut down the center. Like it literally looked like they took the diagram
From the
cut it in half.
Holdo maneuver.
And you see a Holdo maneuver being done. Oh,
Over Endor!
over Endor. For one, why are they there? I mean, did they really need to suppress the Wookiees that badly? They had to put a Star
Ewoks.
Destroyer. Shut up. Ewoks, Wookiees. I mean, Ewoks are basically
One is
just
this tall and one is this tall.
okay. Ewoks are the Tyrion Lannisters of the Wookiee world. Okay, but on the
I'd
drive back
rather have a Wookiee with no
from
name.
us seeing the movie, I was sitting there. I'm going. It was the Ewoks' first spacecraft. They managed to get a tree, put a hyperdrive in it, and then they shot it through a ship. Oh, thank God they
but
don't get to fly around anymore.
but it's a few of those things. But that isn't for me. Isn't even the gross misuse of fan service. You didn't need to end this film on Tatooine. You didn't. It makes sense, fine, but you didn't. You didn't need to go to Luke's childhood home.
There's. I just realized there's. This is gonna bug me now. What is an old crone with a crutch doing out in the middle of the desert?
Walking what is essentially a Tatooine camel.
Yeah.
Asking, who are you? I'm Ray.
Uh,
Skywalker.
for argument's sake, they didn't need to end it on Tatooine, but I think it was more Ray. I'll be the defense here. Ray was basically bringing what essentially is their bodies home. I mean, it was never Leia's home; it was Luke's home. But
Well,
Leia also
Leia's
doesn't
home's
have a
gone.
home anymore.
That's just like
But
throwing
the
your
point is,
lightsaber
she
out an
basically
airlock.
was. She wasn't going to isolate herself away on some unknown world. It's I'm going to go back to the beginning.
So, I like the symbolism of burying the lightsabers. That part makes sense. Doing it on Tatooine makes sense. Um, I'm glad Ben didn't show up in a Force Ghost with Luke and Leia. Now, if you'd have done Ben and Hayden Christensen, brought all four of them out, basically saying, "Yes, you are now a Skywalker. You can take our family name."
Yeah, I
I didn't
wish
like
that.
it the first time. I didn't because I thought it was pushy fan service. But I saw something over the weekend. I don't remember. I would love to give the guy that posted it on Twitter the credit he deserves. I just don't remember who you are. He made a comment over, um, and I'm going to paraphrase here, that when he was old enough to make the choice of who his family was, he took that family's final name. And he was proud to see Ray do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't like it at first, saw that comment, clicked in my head, and it's fine. I don't mind it.
See,
What the biggest problem with that scene I have is the twin sons and the same music. You didn't need that callback. Ray needs to be her own person at this point. And I think if you tie her too close to
yeah, but
Luke,
I
that
don't think that had anything to do with Ray at that point, though.
no, it was closing out the saga. It
Yes.
truly was.
So why are you picking it?
It
How dare you?
it just felt too.
The only
fan-servicey
issue
to me.
I had with that part of it was that the way the suns were setting looked like BB-8.
Was that because BB-8 was there?
BB-8's sitting here, the suns are setting just right. It looked like BB-8.
I want to know if you caught this detail. As soon as Ray landed back on the forest world, she checked BB-8's antennas.
Yes, yes. Every time.
I only
She
noticed
checks
that
it,
one time.
she does it every time.
Probably because she dropped a tree on him.
So, well, there was that.
That's
but no,
the first
every
time they
time
met.
I've seen her and BB-8 interact, like meet up again, she always is checking his antennas.
But that comes from Force Awakens. That makes sense.
I did kind of want to see Ben as a Force Ghost. I told him, like, when they were celebrating, I was getting took back to the Battle of Endor. Because they back up just right to where they're under the wing of an X-Wing, and I started figuring, oh, we're going to see the shoulders of, like, some Force Ghosts standing here watching.
Made sense.
Which then they cut to Tatooine, and I'm going, okay, now we got some Force Ghosts showing up. I was kind of hoping to see Ben, but what I really would have liked to have seen was Hayden Christensen, Ben,
Just the whole family.
Yeah, the family. Now, I also told him that instead of that whole voice section, when she reaches out, finally is in touch with the spirits of all the Jedi, I felt it would have looked so much better if instead of them just being audio, if she had basically stood up and behind her was a ring of
But
Force
don't you
ghosts.
think that visual would have been too close to Goblet of Fire, the Harry Potter visual with Harry's family coming out of his wand?
Why would you even bring
My
that?
family's into Harry Potter, yo.
I'm into Harry Potter, but it's got nothing to do with Star Wars.
It's got ghosts flying out of a wand
But the
to hold.
point is it would have.
It would have solidified him a little bit better. I
I
get where you're
think if
coming
she
from.
had gotten up and there was a ring of Force Jedi Force ghosts, and each of them having been the people that told her those words, I think it would have intimidated the living hell out of
He
Palpatine.
was scared
And
as he
what? Yeah,
was. So, but yeah,
it's the fanboy in me that I
it's
can't keep suppressed, but also it would have just probably 10 times the fan service yells that people are putting out.
well, we're getting to the point where we're reaching the 2 hour mark
Yeah.
here. So we've gone through the plot. We've kind of given you the idea of it. There are things we missed, like Naomi Ackie's character and Lando making a comment about finding out where she comes from.
Possible Disney Plus in the future.
Yeah, so there's little things that they can spin off for future series or future
No
movies
episode 10. All you people
for
going, there's
15
too many
years.
questions. Well, not, but everyone's going, there's too many questions left over. I don't see that many questions. They literally wrapped it up as much as they possibly could, and there's really nothing left standing out except some plot holes. And then a few comments where we might get to see some of these characters later.
The only reason why I would like to see an episode 10 or a future development with this character is because Rey finally has built her own lightsaber.
It's yellow.
It's a yellow. It's got a flip switch, and all it looks like the hilt possibly could be a dual emitter, but it's a very small hilt, so maybe not. But
Yeah,
it looks like it's been built out of the parts of her staff.
yeah, she took the head off her staff, basically. Um, Final words.
I don't know
Thoughts?
where to put this in the saga. I thought it was okay in the first time. This last time, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself. I just have a few nitpicks. I need to see it 2 or 3 more times to know where I would put it in my ranking of the saga.
I, for me, I feel it's actually the best of this trilogy. Um, One thing I didn't touch on, the first, I don't know, third, maybe,
Okay,
felt like they were rushing, they were trying to get,
trying to do all the setup
Abrams
that
was
the
trying
other
to
two
set the
movies should have
stage
done.
that should have already been there.
Yep.
I get it. It was a little rough because it jumps back and forth and back and forth. But overall, I think it's the best of this trilogy. It's not the best of the whole saga, that's for sure. But it is actually a great movie, and on that thought, I just feel I do have to say, the movie was getting bad press from before it even came out. This is what happened with Solo. This is what's been happening quite a bit in the terms of like movie criticism.
Fandom's toxic. Oh, just
Fan,
about every fandom's
you get
toxic.
basically all these people, and they call themselves fans, and really what it is you're all selfish.
Well, with that being said, go ahead and press F in the comments below to pass your respects to Raylo. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, go ahead and hit like, share, and subscribe, as you will see a deep dive on The Mandalorian once we can essentially binge the whole season back to back. And until next time, have a great night.